My name is Haya Ajjan, and I am from Syria. I have a very large family still in Syria. My in-laws are in Syria. My grandmother is in Syria. So this topic is very close to my heart, very dear and near. You're talking about the Assad era. I lived through that era since I was 1 until I was 18. So I lived through it all. And I lived in fear all my life. I would be afraid to say anything about the Assad regime or anything, in fact, about the government. My parents, every time before I left home, they had to brainwash me and remind me that we cannot mention the word Assad. And Assad in Arabic actually means lion. So you couldn't even mention the animal lion because you're saying the word. We had one of our neighbors, I still remember him very, very well. He was a professor in college. He was actually presenting a lecture about the economy, and then what happened is he said that the economy could have been better if we do X, Y, Z, and the Assad wasn't doing what we needed to do. He was picked up from campus before he even left home, and he was taken to prison and tortured for saying that. So this is the type of environment we lived in all our lives, in fear also of stories that you hear. Young people taken because they said something. Young people taken because they organized something. So I want to take you now forward in time to March 2011. When the Arab Spring happened, all of us Syrians were watching the news and were saying, oh, this will never happen in Syria. We lived in so much fear all our lives that we never thought that we would actually be able to break it. And what happened is we saw people taking out to the streets and chanting for freedom and dignity. I was in disbelief. I thought, oh my God, how could you break the fear of death? How could you no longer be afraid and know that you will go out to the street and you may be killed, but you're still doing it? And I'm not talking about people doing it that look different than you and I. They're people like you and I. They're college students that took out to the streets, demanding dignity and freedom, demanding reforms. First, they did not demand a change of government. This came later, after Assad, with his brutality, responded to all these people, all those people that were on the street chanting for freedom, responding by lethal weapon and killing a large number of them. 100,000 people, in fact, 110,000 or more people have been killed. 250,000 are the documented number of people that are being tortured every day in prison. 4 million and 2 million, the numbers that we heard earlier. And people will tell you those are underestimates because there's no good documentation of how many people have actually been captured or have actually fled their home and displaced. My family is displaced. My family, they lived inside Damascus and outside Damascus. All the family that lived outside Damascus now moved inside Damascus. So it's really, really a difficult situation that they're living in right now. I have friends that have been taken to prison, being tortured, just because one of my friends, she was an artist. She drew something about the revolution. And she was taken for 1 year and tortured in prison. So it's a very brutal regime, a regime that's not afraid of using weapons. There was an article that was written in Al Jazeera when the revolution first started. The article said there is no humanity left in Syria. And this is so true. He saw civilians, they were walking, marching out the street, just chanting, no weapons. They did not have any weapons, and he just started shooting them. And piles of bodies. And the world did not stop him. The world just watched. For 2.5 years, the world was just watching. In fact, my family, sometimes when I talk to them, they say, the world doesn't care about us. It's like we belong to a different race. It's like we're not human. They don't care. So I'm glad now to see that the Obama administration has taken interest in the matter. The chemical attack that happened August 21st was not the last thing that the Assad regime has done from then to now. There is a recent article that actually is written in the Al Jazeera. I recommend you read it. The article talks about what the world overlooked in Syria, and it talked about 1,500 people that have died since that chemical attack on August 21st until today. There are mass graves that have been recovered. That's after the chemical attack. This is after us moving ships into the water and saying, we're going to attack you if you continue using chemical weapon. And he's still killing. He doesn't care. So the way I look at the situation now, I see that he created chaos in the country. There is a need for a resolution. This resolution is not going to happen without force. He has Iran on his side. He has Hezbollah fighting with him. He has Russia giving him weapons. That's why I don't trust the Russian deal right now. And all actually Syrians, they don't trust this deal because Russians have been in bed with Assad since the 1970s, so we truly do not trust them. But we need a resolution. We need a bigger power to come in and say, we need you out. We need you to be removed so Syria's war can be stopped. Because with him being in power, the war will not stop and more people are going to die. I want each one of you to think that the 100,000, when I say 100,000, I want you to think that each of those numbers, there is a person behind it. There's a person that had a life, had family, had a job, had a dream. And this person no longer exists because of a brutal dictator that's been killing and slaughtering his people. I want you to think of the Holocaust because what's happening now in Syria, just like what happened in the Holocaust. This is happening in your time, and you have the power to change this, but you really need to act to save